Si te hubieras quedado.
Heather was the most beautiful woman in the village. Her charming face and stunning figure made countless men fall for her. Even though she and David lived a poor life, David, who deeply loved Heather, always fulfilled all her requests. If she liked something, he would sell everything he had to buy it for her. Life went on peacefully. One day, Heather went with David to the forest to chop down trees. Heather, who was used to a pampered life, was caught in an unexpected and dangerous situation. Due to a mistake, a falling tree came crashing down directly towards her. In a panic, Heather forgot to run and was heavily crushed by the tree. David rushed to rescue her, but the immense pressure made it impossible for him to pull Heather out. So he picked up his axe.
Please, no!
In the end, Heather's life was saved, but she lost her right arm. After losing her right arm, Heather's temperament became irritable. Being someone who cared about her appearance, she felt she was no longer perfect. David brought her a prosthetic limb, but Heather didn't even consider it as it was too ugly. She cried every day and even needed to muster up the courage to go out, becoming increasingly insecure. David was heartbroken seeing his wife so dejected, so he secretly designed a mechanical arm, wanting to give Heather a surprise. Looking at the model on the computer, Heather found it acceptable, but she demanded even more.
Can you make it out of gold?
We can't afford that.
You still love me.
More than anything.
Please make it out of gold.
The man sold all their assets, just to get a few gold bars. He carefully placed them in the furnace. At this moment, he was forging a golden arm for the woman he loved. Heather finally got her wish and had the golden arm. She was radiant and full of confidence again, as if she had suddenly returned to her 20s. But the good times didn't last. Due to wearing it for a long time, Heather unfortunately contracted a severe lung disease. The doctor warned her that if she continued, her life would be in danger.
I can't take off my golden arm.
The doctor could only shake his head helplessly, and David, who spoiled Heather, could only follow her wishes. Soon after, Heather was terminally ill. Her last wish was for her husband to bury her with the golden arm. A few days later, the unconscious Heather suddenly had a moment of clarity. She opened her eyes and desperately grabbed her husband's shoulder with her golden arm, as if reminding David not to forget their promise. On the day of the funeral, David put beautiful makeup on Heather and kept his promise, burying the golden arm with her. After taking care of Heather's funeral, David felt empty inside. Without the company of his beloved, life became bleak. To make matters worse, the continuous economic downturn meant no one was buying handmade furniture anymore. David was unable to repay the loan he took out to buy the gold. He looked at Heather's photo in the house and decided to retrieve the golden arm. So he grabbed his axe and shovel and under the cover of a dark and windy night, went to his wife's grave alone. In no time, David had dug down to the coffin. He switched to the axe and shattered the coffin lid in a few swings. David, who was a little scared at first, saw the golden arm was still there and summoned up the courage to reach in and pull, but he couldn't budge it. So he picked up the axe again. David successfully retrieved the golden arm, and now his life was finally secure. He successfully brought the golden arm back home. Back home, David felt that something was off. There was a strange wind outside. Did his wife come back to life? He nervously went outside to check, but there was nothing unusual. He quickly returned to the house, locked the door tight, and was relieved to see the golden arm was still there. But then, the house began to shake violently. David quickly ran upstairs with the golden arm in his arms. The front door opened and a figure appeared in the doorway. David quickly hid in the room. On the stairs, his wife was dragging a long axe, closing in step by step. In the room, David sat on the bed in a daze. He covered himself with a blanket, not daring to face this terrifying scene. Then the door opened and his wife walked toward him, asking for the golden arm. Having no choice, David reluctantly handed it over. The moment his wife received the golden arm, everything seemed to return to normal, as if it had all been a dream. Finally, David and Heather lay in bed, their fingers intertwined. Perhaps there was still love between them. To this day, the police have not found any clues. The kind-hearted people in the town buried them together, and that golden arm was buried underground forever. This ball of twine weighs as much as 2 tons and is said to have been wound for a full 30 years. A little girl was visiting this spectacle alone, but the sound of a child's laughter came from inside, and the eerie sound made the girl shiver.
Hello?
Just then, her headphones were snatched by the twine ball and disappeared from sight.
This isn't funny!
She then went up to check, and suddenly a hand reached out from inside. The girl was swallowed by the twine ball just like that. What exactly was hidden inside? Just this morning, a woman took her daughter to the town to relax, but the girl had no interest because of her father's death. Her mother kept comforting her, but the rebellious girl refused to communicate and put on her headphones. Finally, they reached their destination. Her mother urged the girl to get out of the car. Looking at the twine ball exhibition hall in front of her, the girl still felt bored as usual. Just then, the local sheriff blocked their way, bragging about how amazing the twine ball was. The girl walked away impatiently and entered the exhibition hall alone, which is when the opening scene happened. When her daughter went missing, Molly rushed forward to look for her. The exhibition hall was empty, with only her daughter's inseparable headphone cable left on the ground. But she clearly saw her daughter go in and never saw her come out. Molly had no choice but to go to the streets for help. But the people in the town seemed to be used to such things, and no one was willing to help. She kept dialing her daughter's number. Her daughter disappeared so mysteriously. The anxious Susan came to the police station, hoping the sheriff would intensify the search. But the sheriff's strange smile seemed to be hiding an unspeakable secret. The sheriff told Molly to wait there, saying there should be a more convenient way.
She doesn't exactly fit. Get rid of her, like usual.
Molly was completely confused by what they said.
Miss, I think I have a solution for you.
Just look for my daughter, myself.
And you have to understand.
No, let go of...
It'll only hurt for a minute. I know.
Just as they thought they had successfully controlled Molly, her strong will to survive made her knock the 2 officers to the ground. She grabbed the water glass from the table and threw it at the sheriff. But there was no wound on the sheriff's face, only the shape of the twine was exposed. Before she could react, Molly ran out and hid in the storage room. Then she pulled the twine from her mouth, and the twine on the ground was wiggling as if it were alive. After saving herself, Molly grabbed an axe and rushed out, because her daughter's fate was unknown.
Where's my daughter?
It turned out that everyone here was controlled by the twine. The sheriff lay on the ground, barely alive, and squeezed out his last words. Molly couldn't believe everything that was happening in front of her. She rushed out of the police station, determined to bring her daughter back safely. At this moment, the town's alarm went off. Could she successfully save her daughter? To save her daughter, Molly held an axe, determined to fight her way through. Facing the surging twine people, she fearlessly rushed into the exhibition hall. She used a long pole to prop up the door, and then shouted at the twine ball. Then she started chopping at it like crazy. The twine ball could even bleed. Molly continued to chop hard and finally tore a crack in it. She climbed inside without hesitation. In the dim space, countless human hands appeared out of thin air. Even if it was a living hell inside, it couldn't stop a mother's heart from wanting to save her daughter. The bloody twine ball was like a huge internal organ, full of human remains, and her daughter was lying quietly in the deepest part of it. She went forward and picked up her daughter, trying to wake her up. The twine ball was restoring itself at a visible speed, with every single twine connecting the recently broken cracks. Her daughter finally woke up. A guilty Molly was still blaming herself for not taking good care of her daughter, unaware that the twine ball had been completely sealed again. The mother and daughter were swallowed, and the crowd also broke through the door, gathering around the twine ball as if this was the final destination of their dreams. The sheriff kissed the bizarre twine ball, muttering,
They always do.
This massive twine ball still stands there. Hundreds of disappearance cases happen here every year, and it is all it's doing. There is a mysterious and great profession that can bring lost beauty back to life. But the special working environment makes many people stay away, as they have to deal with rotten animal corpses all day long. This is the taxidermist. Clay is the best taxidermist in town. This day, as he was finishing the last step of a project, someone suddenly knocked on the door. Clay checked the situation, and a stranger was standing in front of the door. a bearded man. Clay, who was already closed for the day, didn't want to take the job, but the bearded man said it was a creature he had never seen before. Driven by curiosity, Clay opened the door. Looking at the bloody corpse in the car, Clay, who loved challenges, decided to give it a try. So he asked the bearded man to move the corpse back inside the house, but because it was completely run over by a car, its appearance had changed completely, which made even the well-informed Clay unable to identify what kind of animal it was. Since it was an unknown creature, Clay was immediately interested. He asked the bearded man to leave the corpse behind and quietly took out reference documents from the bookcase, determined to perfectly restore this mysterious creature. He first removed the animal's internal organs, cleaned the fur, made a skeleton, and finally installed the eyes. The job was done. But when the specimen was finished, it made Clay's jaw drop. It looked too much like a human. Could this be the legendary close relative of Homo sapiens, Bigfoot? At this moment, there was a rapid knock on the door again. He checked impatiently, and it was the bearded man knocking again. The startled Clay quickly locked the door, but it had no effect at all. The unbelievably strong Bigfoot kicked the door away, and Clay was thrown out with it. Without time to react, Clay quickly got up and hid behind the room. At this time, Bigfoot had entered the house, his sturdy body full of power, searching for something everywhere. Finally, it stopped in front of the bucket of internal organs. Through the smell, it knew that these were the organs of its child. In pain, it let out a sorrowful cry. Just as it was about to turn and leave, Clay called out to it from behind.
Wait! Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
The enraged Bigfoot mercilessly tore Clay to shreds. In the end, Clay was also made into a specimen and preserved forever. This is an island shrouded in dark clouds where, according to legend, evil spirits appear when the night is still. A few young guys who didn't believe in evil had to learn their lesson the hard way. At midnight, they walked into the dark forest with flashlights. The pitch-black environment was full of weirdness, but it didn't stop them. They were laughing and fooling around, as if not encountering something would make their adventure a waste. At this time, a strange gust of wind blew, making them feel uneasy. They shone their flashlights around, but there was nothing there.
Gray Cloud's ghost. Somebody out there?
It turned out that there was a strange totem pole standing here.
Guys, look.
In the distance, someone was holding a torch and walking into an old house. Their curiosity was once again piqued. Since there was someone here, what was there to be afraid of? The guys discussed and decided to move forward and see what secrets were hidden there. Entering the house, the pungent smell almost made them vomit. Pushed open the door.
What the hell? Yeah, we should, seriously, what the fuck is going on?
A man's appearance startled the young guys. A bold one even wanted to argue with him, but the man didn't say a word, pulled out a knife, and stabbed him in the face. The masked man was ruthless and decisive, and with a swing of his knife, he killed the guy. The masked man held the knife and continued to approach them. Fortunately, the blood on the ground saved their lives. The guys quickly went up and held the masked man down, but even with more people, they were no match for him.
What the fuck just happened? What the fuck do we do? We fucking run! Okay.
The group took the injured woman and went into the woods again. After not walking long, a huge pit appeared in front of them. The bottomless pit emitted an even more eerie atmosphere. With no time to react, everyone quickly chose another path to escape, and by chance, they saw an isolated villa not far away. In a panic, they rushed to knock on the door for help. The old lady knew the situation was urgent and opened the door to take them in. Finally, they got help, and the guys were relieved. For their safety, they decided to split into two groups, one looking for weapons and the other calling the police. Jack frantically dialed for help but found he couldn't make a call at all. The old lady, who was friendly just now, showed her ferocious side.
Hello?
At this moment, the electricity in the whole house was cut off, and the old lady started her hunt. She moved in the dark as fast as lightning and instantly appeared behind the guy.
Whoa, hey!
Just as she was about to strike, the woman wrapped her with an iron chain. The group, who had escaped again, had not yet recovered, and the torches lit outside indicated that the pursuers had arrived. They could only sneak out the back door. The three officially started their great escape, but the woman was tied up with a chain and couldn't run fast. The remaining two had no time to react and could only continue to run forward. They ran all the way to the road, and luckily a car passed by. The guy knocked on the car door anxiously, but the driver didn't want to cause trouble and refused to lend a hand. He smiled and looked at the woman next to him, but she was still wearing the iron helmet. The guy took an iron bar from the car and knocked the helmet off in one go.
It's gonna be all right.
The woman bit the guy to death, her terrifying face like a demon's, and finally jumped out of the car and escaped into the depths of the forest. One terrifying event after another made the driver panic, and he could only seek help from the nearby police. At the police station, the driver recounted everything that had happened. It turned out that there was a gateway to hell on this island, and from time to time, demons would run out of it. The residents here have been shouldering the mission of hunting demons since ancient times. But this secret cannot be leaked out, as it would cause panic. She has an immortal soul and is wrapped in scarlet tentacles. She can capture people's souls and bewitch them. A mysterious and powerful force allows her spirit to exist forever. This was originally a peaceful town. The climate was pleasant all year round and people had a high sense of happiness. The police, who hadn't received a report for a long time, finally had a case today. In a nearby neighborhood, a robbery occurred, and a sheep and some miscellaneous items were stolen. Vincent and George felt a bit incredible. In all their years as police officers, they had never encountered such a big case. But Shirley, who was in the police car, showed anxiety when she heard the news. Did she know some inside story? Vincent and George arrived at the scene according to the address from the dispatcher. The door was locked, and it didn't look like a robbery had occurred at all. They got out of the car and were about to check the situation, but the boy at the door kept asking why Officer Shirley hadn't come. This unusual behavior made the two police officers feel uneasy. Then the boy opened the door, pointed inside the house, and told the police that his great-grandmother reported the case.
You okay?
This mysterious hut could make Officer Shirley feel fear. Her panicked expression indicated that something terrifying was about to happen. There were already 2 police officers who had come here to investigate the case, but they had not returned to the team. At this time, Shirley's behavior made the police officers next to her feel nervous as well. Shirley quickly got out of the car and took out a family heirloom necklace from a bag in the trunk. This seemed to be a treasure that could ward off evil and avoid disaster. At this time, the mysterious little boy showed up again. Shirley even said she had seen him 20 years ago, which was getting weirder and weirder. Suddenly, the door opened, and a strange wind blew straight out from inside. They walked in bravely, and the dark environment was full of weirdness everywhere. And in a corner of the inner wall, he found a hidden passage. But the stench inside was so rotten it almost made him vomit. Something must be hidden in here. Shirley quickly called for backup, but she couldn't reach headquarters at all. With no other choice, the two of them risked entering the passage. As expected, it was a completely different world inside. Candle holders were everywhere, and offerings were scattered all over, suggesting that many rituals had taken place.
What's this shit? You know? That's a baby.
I'm sorry. My family, they do all kinds of stuff.
The moment he finished speaking, his colleagues' screams came from a hole in the wall behind them. In the pitch-black secret room, they couldn't see anything. In the center of the altar, a mummified corpse was tightly wrapped in scarlet tentacles, and the ground was covered with scattered skeletons. It seemed this was no simple ritual. At this moment, the sound of dripping water echoed in the quiet environment, and Wilkie went forward to check. Under the dim light, the liquid in the iron basin was the color of blood. His colleague, Vincent, was hanging upside down from the ceiling. Her colleague Wilkie had been cursed, so she took off the family heirloom necklace from her neck and chanted a spell. She finally pulled Wilkie back from the demon's control. They couldn't stay in this inauspicious place for another second. They had to find a way to get out of here. After escaping, Shirley came to the mummified corpse. She mustered up her courage and lifted the veil. It turned out that it was her grandmother, but she had clearly died 20 years ago. So had she been resurrected? At this moment, the old lady suddenly opened her eyes, and the tentacles on her body began to squirm. She tied up Shirley and poured the evil blood into Shirley's body. Under the sunlight, the little boy appeared on the screen again, excitedly asking Shirley if she had succeeded. At this moment, Shirley's eyes looked dazed.
Funcionó.